Hey, it has been a long time since I've done any kind of video. And, from like YouTube tutorial or me talking amongst my students or whatever you guys are familiar with that I usually have online. But I ran across this video that I thought was freaking incredible. It's a video done by PewDiePie, and it's called I Drew Every Day for 365 Days. It was painful. And man, I thought it was incredibly fascinating, and it made me want to comment on it. I wanted to do a bit of commentary on it because I like it. I like it a lot. I think there is something really authentic and honest about what he talks about. And there's also some stuff that if you are having a feeling similar to what he's describing, or maybe there's other things that are on your mind in regards to, okay, well, PewDiePie, and you have your opinions about what that might mean to you. I kind of wanted to discuss a little bit of that. I think it actually might have a lot of value. I actually doubt that this is a video that perhaps he would see, but I know, a few hundred, if not a few thousand people will probably see this video and will hear the message and might run with it, And that's what I'm about. I'm not always about trying to get that viral click, but mostly try to help folks that I at least have access to. And so, yeah, let's get right into it. I'm going to play a little bit of the audio and video. It's going to be on the bottom left. You'll notice that I don't have a picture of myself, or these normal commentator streams will have the person emoting. And honestly, I was going to do that. I actually had my camera set up, but it's been acting really weird. Even in meetings, it's like freezing and breaking my computer. So I think there's just something going on with my laptop. But I'm not here to talk about my technological woes. I'm here to talk about being good at art. Let's talk about it.
I drew every day for a year. What's the progress? Was it worth it? So this all started as a random idea. I wanted to make a progression video, and I picked art because I thought it was easy to track. Like, I'll draw for 30 days, I can show the first day, and then I can compare it to the last day. That will be interesting to see. Did I make progress? People were so encouraging on the video, and I really enjoyed picking up drawing. So I kept going, and I did a 100-day one, and people enjoyed it even more. There was no way I was gonna stop. I had to do at least a year. And here we are, being here.
So let's talk about that. That encouragement, right? That kind of validation you get from doing a good job is a pretty powerful tool, man. Like, he was like, okay, I'm gonna do a 30-day drawing challenge, and he was doing it for fun. And this is gonna be a really good note to take note of, or something important to keep track of. But he was having a good time because people were giving him compliments. And honestly, when you go from 0 to hero, like you had no skill, and at the end of it, you have some skill, that feels great. It feels incredible. And from 30 to 100, he felt even better about it because he felt like he really accomplished a lot. Again, let me just be clear. I haven't seen the previous videos, so I don't know the commentary that he may have had. So if I'm missing some context, feel free to chime me in. But I think regardless, I still have some pretty good and important points to make about what is going on here. And what I find myself dealing with quite a lot, actually, when it comes to teaching and interacting with people who are trying to become great at what they do. But yeah, that's great. I 100% agree that having a good, strong support system or have a good state of mind when it comes to progressing your artwork is a really huge advantage to keep improving. But let's keep on listening.
Here I have so many emotions. I am happy. All right, let's dig into it. Let's watch. Sorry, my nails. This is where it all started 365 days ago.
Yeah, let me comment on that simple statement. It's the kind of thing that I pay attention to a lot. He said, "Forgive me for my nails." And that is, again, probably a bit of foreshadowing here that he thinks that people might care about his nails. And granted, he has maybe one of the largest audiences in the world, and there probably are going to be people that are like, ugh, fucking nails are gross, bro. But in my, in my way of thinking about this type of stuff, and my principal methodology is, you don't want to really care about people that care about stuff like that. So anyway, I thought that's just funny, but it is a bit of foreshadowing kind of to what we're going to see in terms of his feelings halfway through his progress into the 365. Anyway, let's go.
Day 1. Is that a self-portrait? Is that Björn? Yes. Yes. Man, this is nice to watch. Like, okay, some are not terrible. This gives me confidence. Here's when I started to look up tutorials and stuff on.
Okay, so he's just about to talk about tutorials, and I'm not really going to comment too much on that. I think a lot of folks who watch me, or people who, watch any kind of content, will probably understand that learning from others is an incredible tool. You will hear a lot of, like, and even he mentions, like, he's kind of self-taught. That only means that, like, you didn't have, like, a proper educational structure. Like, you didn't have somebody, like, walk you through it, or you didn't go to some sort of institution. But generally, I don't think anyone's, like, actually self-taught. Like, it just means that you're more self-disciplined. You had to learn from somewhere, whether it was brute force studying and practicing, what have you. But what's really awesome about what he's talked about here, and this is something that I do a lot with my students, where they'll feel that they haven't improved. They're just like, God damn, I suck, and when that happens, it's because, like, the progress that they've made at that time feels small. It doesn't feel like they made any huge improvement, or they feel really negative about something that they just didn't understand, and it really bothers them, almost to the point where they think that they're getting worse. But if you start to think about it a little bit more, you'll understand that that's just not how it works. And again, I'll get a little bit deeper into it when he starts to talk about it more. But what I wanted to speak to specifically right at this moment, the greatest tool you can do sometimes is just to look back at some of your older work compared to what you do now. And there's something he's about to do here where he actually paints, draws over his image. I think that's incredibly awesome. Like, for him to kind of like, oh, I think I can improve this. Just to show that there was a moment in his art career, his art journey rather. I don't think he cares to make this a career. His art journey, where he didn't know any better, and that there were blind spots, and that is still true for him today, even after the 365 days. Like, that's still true. Like, you still don't know a lot of stuff, but look, you stuck with it, and you learned quite a few things that now you look back at your older work, and you can now see what you could have done better. But anyway, let's keep watching.
Online, you think it'd be better, but they all kind of look like they have some sort of allergy. Like they ate a lobster and they have a seafood allergy. The chin is very big. I probably would have made it something more like, I wonder if I can fix this. I feel bad for future past self. Damn, I drew so hard, I can't erase. Damn, such a simple change, and it's already so much better. I realize, and maybe other people have said this too, but drawing is more about training your brain to see rather than actually technical with your hand. I think that's a misconception I had. But after 30 days, this was the progress of my first video. I was so happy with it, and I think I should be, because the progress is definitely there. So this is my progress after 82 days, 84. And I really think here's where I peaked in terms of if you wanted to just improve as much as possible in the shortest time.
Yeah, so this is really awesome, and this is incredibly fascinating that he says that this is one of his, I forget exactly the number, I already forgot, like he said 84 or 86, 82, one of those 80 numbers. And he really talks about how he felt like he peaked here in the 100 days, okay? Which is probably true. Probably this is the best drawing within that 100-day cycle that was great, or he felt really proud of. And the internet, I think, also kind of felt, wow, this is incredible. Like, what a great job. He's really grown a lot in 100 days. And I think it's important to recognize that that's right. You don't know when a piece of artwork of yours is going to be great, but as long as you keep putting that, putting those logs into the fire and let it keep burning, you'll eventually have some image. And again, a little bit of more foreshadowing. He definitely starts to talk about the insecurities he had with the day 365 video, where he felt he needed to have something to show for it, and it just wasn't happening. And as days were coming, he felt more and more and more pressured to do something awesome, and it just wasn't happening. And I think that is a great tool, that's a great vantage point to think about, where he felt really stuck, but only in this paradigm of like he had something to demonstrate. If he didn't and he just stayed with it, perhaps day 366 he would have made something really cool, perhaps 370, perhaps 400. It wouldn't be too far off, right? But if he kind of removed that a little bit, that pressure, which I think he did a really good job of, I think he ultimately still removed it, that he wouldn't feel as upset. And the reason why I think it's really important to kind of talk about this as well is a lot of people, unlike PewDiePie, where perhaps PewDiePie is like, okay, this is content. This is something that I want to make sure that I'm accountable for. I've already built a state of thinking that I'm going to deliver some more of this type of content, you know? And as a person that he feels that he's not the kind of individual that will stop just because something is a little bit hard, which is a great character feature I really admire in people. And I really encourage people that don't have that to try to learn how to have some of it, and if not, try to adopt it entirely. It's really, really sick to see that, like, you don't know when it's going to happen. You don't know when you're just going to all of a sudden just get it, right? All you can do is to keep trying to get it. And again, he'll talk more about it further down this video. And I'm realizing this might be a super long video, so I might actually chop this up a bit. So this will be part 1 of a series, just because I'm looking at the clock. I was like, oh, I probably could get this done in 30 minutes, but I realized I talk a shit ton, so I probably will not be able to do that. But I will do a little bit of this every day until it's done. I don't want to let it linger. Anyway, yeah, so it's really cool. And I like that this is happening. I like that he stopped and realized that this wasn't on day 100. It was actually sooner, which gives him relief to feel like, at least at the end of the day, I have something to show for it, which is great. But yeah, I think it's a really important little thing that he talked about here. And one last thing I'll say, in the reverse, having some accountability and having some thresholds that kind of force you to stay focused and stay on time and have some agenda, I think is really important as well. But it's just as important to be kind to yourself and know that things kind of happen and that some things don't easily fall in place. In fact, I think I have a really good perspective of why I think large studios tend to fail as a consequence of what it means to make something creative. But that's a whole different video and subject. But anyway, let's keep watching, and then maybe I'll stop at the 5-minute mark.
I think just adding colors on papers is so satisfying to look at that it kind of forgives a lot of the anatomy errors, the poor line work, the sketches still being there. Like, it's just not.
Yeah, so I just want to comment on this real quick. He's talking as if the colors are actually saving the picture. PewDiePie, if you happen to be listening to this, or anyone who's looking at this, no, I think the image is just a good image, and the color just compounds it. You know, I think he's wrongly prescribing or describing that it's much more cooler because of the colors, and it forgives all these bad things. No, I could still see the rough sketches. I could still see some anatomy errors here and there. But it's cool. It's a cool image. The hair is drawn well. The colors are really complementing the complexion of the skin, and the values are pretty strong. Like, it's just a good image, dude. You just did a good image. It's not hiding shit, dude. You did a great job.
Nice to look at regardless. But yeah, this is the last thing I drew for my 100-day video, and yeah, it's cute. I did it. I drew something. So let's check the progress from there on. That's wrong. First of all, don't do what I did. I just kept drawing the same things. Anime girl, anime girl.
Yeah, I agree with this. Don't just draw the same things over and over again. I will say that if you like anime, which it seems like he does, and you like to draw anime girls, which it seems like he does, I actually think it's okay to just stay drawing anime girls. But what I will say, though, kind of to compliment his feedback to himself and just general feedback he's trying to give out to others, is maybe within the anime girls, like genre, like try to mix it up, try to do some more costuming, try to do more full figures, which he started to begin to do. Try to draw them in perspective again, which I think he starts to do later in the video. Like mix up within that genre is not a bad take, because let's look at it from a different perspective. He almost entirely focused on anime girl faces in a matter of 100 days, and he got really good at it, like around 80-ish days. That's the power of focus, you know? I think it's a good argument to mix it up, but sometimes you just got to stay in the boat until you understand it. So it's not only should you draw other things, yeah, I think that's great, but have an agenda. Like, what are you trying to get better at? If you're trying to get better at perspective, then just stick with perspective for 100 days. Like, just do that. Do a 30, 60, 100-day thing there, which is going to be more of my commentary later on. Some of the stuff he talks about is having a little bit more a focus of what you're trying to accomplish, and an understanding that your skills are not bad when you try something different. Like, you're like, all of a sudden your anime girl drawing skills are gone. It's like, no, you've just never drawn in perspective. Imagine you starting from day 0. What do you expect? But now you have some competency. It deceivingly veils this idea that you are worse now. So, you were always bad at perspective. You just, because you've never done it, you just been doing anime girls. So that makes you think that you're good at perspective for no justifiable reason. It's a self-own. It's a unconscious bias that you have towards your own artwork and skills. I always tell people, pretend you don't know anything about anything until you can do it. So if he's like, I'm going to start drawing men or robots or whatever, if he hasn't drawn one ever, then he should just immediately assume he's going to be bad at it, and that he's never going to draw it good until he does it quite often. And not to feel upset or insecure or anxious about it. Similar to how he felt when he first started, because he knew he wasn't good, and so he didn't have anything to fall back on to feel or to compare his skill to. So anyway, I'll talk a little bit more in depth about that kind of stuff later when it's more relevant.
Too much anime. Just bad. Just bad. I was trying to be technical and like give myself notes so I can improve. I wanted to be more consistent. I think that's why I kept doing this. But if I had to redo it, absolutely not. This is where I should have moved on to something else. I should have just drawn anything else.
So he says if he could have done it differently, he would have done anything else. And this is where I would give a bit of pushback. That this is hindsight, right? Like, he is being clear with himself that he could have done more with more time. And granted, maybe after Anime Girl 125, he could have stopped. Whatever he decided that he should have stopped, right? Maybe there is a number, but part of the growth that he's encountering right now is the fact that he feels this way now because he has evidence of so. It is easy to imagine in a perfect world, if he would have just done it better, he would be better off. But that's kind of the deal. The fact that you've done that, PewDiePie, is why you have this new profound wisdom, and there's some context to it, and it makes sense. Because I think a lot of people will hear that and say, oh, okay, great. So I better mix it up. I better just draw random stuff every single day. They might misunderstand what you're saying. I don't think you were saying that at all, but I can feel people misunderstanding this. And what will end up happening is that they will draw perspective one day and then do anatomy the next day. And if they did that for 30 days, just random stuff, no clear focus, like you did it on accident. You were very focused on anime female drawings, specifically portraits, they might misread that. Like, oh, okay, well, he wish he could have done it differently, so I should do that because then that means I'll have a better start. In reality, at the end of their 30 days, they will almost have probably no good drawings, and they will feel like, fuck, what's wrong with me, you know? And in the reality of it all is like, there's nothing wrong with you. You just need to spend potentially 30 to 60 to 100 days on each individual skill that you wanted to get good at. Like, you want to get good at anatomy, you should spend 30 to 60 days just on anatomy, not anything else, right? So your brain can really digest and understand that stuff versus just throwing it a bunch of random stuff. It will just treat it as a bunch of random stuff. It will never have that held into its memory banks. And so I think this is something that made me feel like this is the kind of thing I would love to talk about, because I have no doubt millions and millions of people are watching this video and getting really inspired for all the right reasons. But then we'll hear something like this, which I don't think PewDiePie was trying to give out bad advice on accident, but doesn't realize that this is potentially bad advice. And I know this because I have taught hundreds and hundreds of people, if not thousands. And for the few thousand that are going to watch this, and off the off chance there's more than that, hopefully you can hear my advice when I say this. What PewDiePie did right was to actually stay super focused. And what PewDiePie is trying to critique himself with, which I don't disagree with, is that he wanted to shift to something different. And that is true for him. Maybe you fucking love drawing anime girls and you continuously want to do it. I know people that's all they do, and they are the best in the business because they didn't spend 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 100 days, 365 days. They spent years doing it, and they are undoubtedly some of the best that do this thing. And as a consequence, they may have also found time to try to learn how to do something a little bit different as well. So I think this is good advice with some context injected there. Help play support class right now for our boy PewDiePie.
And eventually I did. I really wanted to draw more color, but it takes so much time to do that, and I really felt like I needed mileage more than anything. So just adding a little bit of color, sure, we'll ink it, but that's the most effort I'm gonna get into. Yeah, just sketching random stuff I find online. Finally, I move on and I draw boys. This is the boys arc. I drew so much guys from anime because I thought
yeah, look how much like worse these are compared to his anime girls. And this is where I think people could fall into the trap of like, I've gotten worse. It's like, no, he's just never done it. This is like, he's made a claim, this is my boys arc, but he's also misunderstanding some of this idea of like he's not doing as good as he thought he was. But no, it's like, this is it. You're doing a great job. Like, you are exploring something that you feel is important to you. I actually would argue what he mentioned earlier, that he wanted to do some color stuff, that maybe he should have just stuck with that. Just really sharpen this blade, you know? And then with the advice I'm giving now, understanding, okay, now if you want to divorce yourself from that, be prepared that it's going to be a whole huge fest of just not being good at stuff. And that's going to feel really bad. But I do think it's really important, regardless, that he makes these decisions and decides to do something else because that's what he wants to do, you know? And that's really, really important to take away. I love this.
I drew so many mangas. You probably recognize these. I think this is Jujutsu Kaisen. I think, you know, this is a good time for me to address a couple things from my last video. And one of them is just a huge thanks to other YouTubers that reacted to my video. I think that was so cool.
Oh, PewDiePie. If you only knew how awesome the art community is, I think you would be vastly, vastly happier. The art community, for the most part, the vast majority of us are awesome people to be around. If you ever feel the need to come hang out, I would highly recommend you going to an event like Lightbox. My buddy Bobby Chu, I'm sure, would love to have you and keep you in a place of safety so you don't get mobbed by people. But perhaps you could do a panel or two talking about it. and also hanging out with some of the best in the biz, as well as just your common folk that are just wanting to do art. It is one of the greatest communities. And just to take one step further, I've worked on movies and tabletops and all this stuff, and I love these places. I love a lot of them, but my favorite industry to work in and to be around, and I think this is also would be true for many of y'all, is either video games, like making stuff for video games, or the animation crew. Like people who make video games and people who make animations tend to be some of my favorite people to stick around with. No shade at my movie folks, you know, I love them as well. But there is a specific kind of nerd that comes from people who like to make video games and who like to make animations that speak my language. And so you are welcome to our community. We love everybody and anybody that does art. That's why as the horizon of AI, you can see a big love and push. There's very few people in our biz who are like, yeah, it's dope. You know, again, I don't know when that time will come where AI might be something that most people will support, and it won't be as controversial as it is now. I don't know, and I don't want to claim to know or claim to suggest when that should be. But what I will say is the community is always supportive of one another, and this is one of those things that we're fighting. And then also, whenever people have opportunities that are available, we always try to help each other out. It's pretty awesome. It's a really great industry, and this is one of them. Like, people are like, oh dude, this is great, and from my perspective, like, oh dude, this is like a perfect example of what I always teach my students, which is just straight up practice all the time. Like, you are embodying this, and you're a very popular YouTuber, so you're hitting a lot of folks with all the right notes. I'm just here to try to play, like I said, support class. And I'm sure many of my colleagues are doing the same. They're like, oh, you know, this is great, but let me give you some deeper insight. All knowing that this is probably and potentially going to reach a larger audience that might want to hear this. So much love.
To see and actually get encouraged by professionals. I really appreciated that. Another thing was that people said I had an art background. That was like a rumor that went around, and I guess I take that as a compliment, but no, I do not. I have not studied art. That was the whole point of this video. I was not being disingenuous. I have not drawn since I was a kid, but I loved doing Photoshop. Before YouTube, I loved photoshopping images.
All right, we're at about 4 minutes here, and I'm looking at the clock. I have very limited time. I got to bounce. And I did this painting, so this will be a multi-parter, and it'll be great for everybody because I'll do more than one painting, and it'll be cool. One thing that I will say about what he just said, you know, okay, look, people assume that he has an art background because it doesn't seem likely that somebody can get this good so quickly. And I remember I just came from an event called Lightbox, and I remember people were asking me like, oh man, like I feel like I'll never get there. And I can tell that their work is representing distractions. Like, I can tell that they have things in their life that might distract them from their focus on drawing and painting all the time. PewDiePie, as far as I can tell, has a lot of time on his hands to get good at something if he decided to. And that's a huge deal. And that is something that we should admire and should be proud of. Meaning that it is something that is within grasp if you give enough time and effort into something. Perhaps people are wrongfully attributing his skill because he might have already some creative skill or some creative practice before. And he's being honest. He's like, yeah, like I did do some creative stuff before. So maybe that's what is the connective tissue here. But I would say that we all have it in us to be super creative. It's all in us. Like, I think it's a natural state of what it means to be human. And what I think has happened is that it's been beaten out of us over the many years of going to traditional schools. Hold on, I gotta stop for here, right here. All right, sorry about that. As I was saying, I think most people are actually, you know, born with doing something creative or something interesting that, you know, makes them want to make something. and that many years of going to conventional schools and educational programs where I don't necessarily blame them either. Sometimes it's a lack of resources, but as a result, people find ways to supplement their creative adventures. Whether they watch movies, listen to music, play video games, we are built to want to engage in more movies, video games, and what have you, because we don't do it for ourselves. And so once you start to do it, it becomes addictive in a lot of good ways. And like I said earlier, when you start to add in all of the indirect factors that affect your creative growth, whether it's like deadlines or expectations from others, then that can really, really hold you back. But with all that being said, I do have to go now. My child is now in the room, so it's not going to be any easier for me to do any more recordings. But I'll catch up with you guys sometime later. But hope this was helpful. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the painting. And I would highly recommend you watch all of the PewDiePie video, even before I commented on it any further. Cool. Cheers.